You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.
This is Jennifer Hillman, and we are talking to Regina Cates of romancingyoursoul.com. She is a friend of mine on Facebook. I've been following her probably for 2 or 3 years at least. Be available during this time. So, Regina, I know we just called you, and you're going, okay, I guess we're on the air, and guess what we are.
Good morning, Jennifer. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak with you today.
Your work is amazing. Your website has a lot of information about taking care of your own soul. Is that the focus of everything, your focus of your work?
Well, the focus of my work, Jennifer, is to help people empower themselves to lead with their heart, which to me is the soul. It's the essence of who we are. So there's a lot of steps involved, and I outline those in my upcoming book, Lead with Your Heart. So that is the focus. The business is romancing your soul. It's an individual journey of getting to know who you really are on the inside. So yes, ma'am.
And how long have you been doing this work now?
56 years. I'm 56 years old. So
it starts the first thing and never ends, does it?
Well, it's this is how I was born. Now, I have been, of course, a professional in the work world. I was in higher ed administration, worked for colleges for years, but for the past, I guess, since 2004, when we started the business of romancing your soul, I've been doing it full time, so to speak.
So what was the clue that you needed to start the website and the business?
Well, there wasn't a need. There was a desire because of what I have to offer. You know, whenever you and I have, or any of us goes through a process in life and we are awakened to a certain extent, then I believe that we have a wonderful responsibility to share what we have learned with other people, and that's what I do through Facebook or the website or the workshops or any of the things that I do.
And amazing work it is. Now, when you sign up for your newsletter, that's awesome. You give out a kind of a clue of boundaries for oneself.
Well, it's an essay that's in the book. Yes, Jennifer, that's correct. And it's actually the steps on how to set boundaries out of a greater love for yourself. It's one of the most important things that we do in healthy relationships. So, yeah, it's a guide on actually how to do it.
And it's wonderful. It is, these days, I think that's one of the things that people have the hardest time doing.
Yeah, we allow ourselves, yeah.
So why do you think that is?
To set boundaries, probably because there's a lot of different things that we tell ourselves that aren't true, like if we say no to someone, they won't like us. What we need to do is really look at that and say, well, wait a minute, if we are engaging with people and we cannot set a boundary out of love for ourselves, then they really don't love us. You know, and that's part of the conversation that we'll have today, too, about what love really is. I think a lot of people are confused about what love is, certainly self-love, because if we don't love ourselves, we certainly can't love anyone else because we don't know what that feels like.
And it's quite a feeling when you finally get that.
Well, it's an understanding. Yeah, it's an understanding of what love really is. You know, love is behavior. You know, we can care for someone, we can have great affection for someone, we can have an attraction for someone, but in the everyday life, when you say I love you to someone, even to yourself, then you're going to treat yourself in a certain way. And, you know, as I say in the book, love is commitment, it's compassionate, it's devoted, accepting, understanding, honest, respectful, forgiving. All of these are behaviors of love. So when I love myself, I give these to me. And when I love you, I'm giving those to you also. That's how you and I know that we love and are loved, through the behavior. You know, screaming and yelling is not love.
No. No. Taking advantage of people, manipulating people is not love.
That's correct.
And through my experience of figuring this all out, there's so many mind games that we've learned through society of we need X to have love, or we need X and Y to have love. We need to kind of diminish our own power to be accepted, and to be whole. If we have to let go of really appreciating ourselves so somebody else can appreciate us. Do you understand what I mean?
Oh, of course, and that's really codependent behavior. Because unless we have patience within us, then we can't give patience to someone else. You know?
Yes.
One of the things that society, like you were talking about, Jennifer, one of the things that society does is says, when you meet your better half, when you meet your other half, you'll be whole. That is one of the most, I think, challenging things that we need to overcome, is because unless we're already whole, then we're just going to meet someone and we're going to be suffering together. That's
exactly
that's real fallacy. Two halves don't make a whole. Two whole people come together and then they become better than the sum of their parts, because they don't dump their unresolved issues onto someone else, because that's not love either. That's why we have to love ourselves most in order to love others well. When we put ourselves first, it's not selfish, it's responsible.
Right. And it has been for me. It's very interesting that looking over how I've been in the past and how I've been now. It's like I have a program called INUB, which is the individual notion of being. But I figured this out because my guidance said in a relationship, I asked within myself, okay, what's my part of this breakup? What was the part that I need to work on to be more responsible? And it basically was, you are an INOB. And I said, excuse me, an insecure, nagging, obsessive bitch. And it's just like, if that isn't codependency, I don't know what is. So from that, I kind of learned to find myself through the process. So it's very interesting to really reflect back on that and see how much more secure I am within myself and the people that I'm now attracting to really keep that going, saying, you're okay. So it's a really good support system.
Well, it is, and that's the whole reason that we have to start with ourselves, because unless we have a good understanding of what we are and who we are, what we value, then we're not going to be able to recognize those values in another person, If we're not responsible with money and we have a whole lot of problems with debt, then we can't recognize someone who's responsible with money. So to have the best relationship, it's based on shared values, and shared values have to be, we have to identify those for ourselves first before we can identify those with someone else.
Exactly. And another thing that, go on.
Mm-hmm. No, well, I was just thinking, getting back to the boundary setting, and then we get into relationship, and then it was like, oh gosh, I've made a huge mistake. When from the very beginning, if we look to see those shared values, then we're able to work through challenges that come up in relationship rather than trying to change the other person, which does not work.
Yes, we can only change ourselves. We can't change somebody else.
That's correct.
So the other thing that is interesting is, and this is more women than men, I know he's going to change. I know I can fix him.
Well, that's also that stereotypical thing that we've been, given through fairy tales and society, and maybe even organized religion has played a part of this too. That's just one of the fallacies. It's just not going to work. Women and men both need to be whole, and it's an individual journey. That's what romancing your soul is all about. It's about finding out who you are, what you value, what you care about. It's about having the personal empowerment to set boundaries out of a greater love for yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing that's also, when you set those boundaries, the response of the other person tells you really where they are within themselves as well.
Well, it does, and there's certain steps to setting boundaries too. There are
why don't you go over those steps?
Yeah, and anyone who wants to come to the website, they can certainly download this for free. Just sign up for the newsletter, and that's it. But the first one is to define acceptable behavior. We learn how to behave from our parents and society and all of these other places, just like what we've been talking about. But that does not mean that behavior is correct. We grow up in an abusive circumstance, then we might consider that abuse is love. It's not love. So we first have to look at what is acceptable behavior. That's the first step in setting boundaries. The second is accept that doing nothing is condoning bad treatment. You know, Albert Einstein said no problem or problems cannot be solved at the same level of awareness that created it. So you and me and everyone who is on a journey of healing the problems that we have had is based on bringing a new level of awareness. And that's the first part of setting boundaries. You know, in an abusive situation, the only thing that will ever change that is to bring a new level of awareness to it. So after you've defined acceptable behavior, then you accept that doing nothing is condoning bad treatment. Because if a wife does not speak up against someone who is abusing her physically, mentally, intellectually, whatever, then it's just going to continue to have the circumstance the same way. Does that make sense?
Total.
Yeah, a new level of understanding and awareness. That's why people all the time on Facebook, you know, I have a little bit of a following, and we talk about this quite often, Jennifer, and that is, well, I just can't do that with my family. Well, wait a minute. Those are the people that you have to do it with, because in order to change any kind of, bad, negative family dynamic, someone in the family has to be brave enough to stand up. I've set boundaries with members of my family, and I continue to do that today. We have to, because we bring a different, higher, better level of awareness to the circumstance. So that part about, well, they're family and I just can't do it, that really is the people that we need to establish boundaries with the most, you know?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, you have to. You know, you just have to, especially if there's a child who's a drug addict. You can't just continue to enable them to ruin you financially or whatever else. You have to be able to set a greater boundary out of love for yourself. And in so doing, you bring that higher level of awareness to the circumstance. And a lot of times, at least in my experience, Jennifer, with the people that I work with, when the parents do this, when they do set a greater boundary out of love for themselves, then the child is forced to make a decision. Am I going to continue to do this in my life, or am I going to do something better for myself? It's amazing what set boundaries does. It really does bring a new level of awareness, and a lot of times it helps people wake up. So after you've defined acceptable behavior and accept that doing nothing is condoning bad treatment, then another thing that we have to do is calmly and clearly express our feelings. You know, I feel sad, blamed, and attacked when you speak to me disrespectfully. Please treat me with patience and respect. So we say what the behavior of the other person does and how it makes us feel, and then how we want them to change it. And Jennifer, we set boundaries to change us, not to change other people. That's exactly. Very important for your listeners to understand. We set those boundaries to bring a greater level of awareness so that we're not treated badly. So you have to calmly and collectively state what it is that you want without expectations that whatever it is that you want is actually going to be followed through. And that goes with step number 4, and that is be comfortable with not being popular. You know, you're gonna upset status quo. And people that do that, especially in a dysfunctional family, are not going to be popular, because those people that are allowing the abuse or those people that are the cause of the abuse do not have the awareness to understand that what they're doing is hurting other people, or else they wouldn't do it. So those basically are the 4 steps, you know, in setting boundaries. And like I said, people come to the website and they can get this essay and apply it to their own lives.
Well, it's interesting as you were saying that. It just brought back the memory when within my family, I was the one that always kind of set up and organized the family reunions, and I was getting tired of it because it was a lot of responsibility that I really didn't have time for. And then the first year I said, no, everybody, what do you mean you're not going to? You always do it. You have to do it. And I said, no, I really don't. Somebody else can take this on. And we didn't have a family reunion for 3 years because nobody else wanted to take it on. But I definitely, no, it's not.
And that's not your fault either. And that, you ask in your very beginning question, Jennifer, and that's very important, was why people don't do it. Because of that. They don't do it because of that, because they don't want to be popular. They don't want to be unpopular. They don't want to hurt someone else's feelings. So you decided you decided to set a boundary out of greater love for yourself and say, I'm not going to do this anymore, and then all hell broke loose. Okay? That's why people are uncomfortable doing it. But what you have to understand is that the family reunion is going to go on. You just don't have to do it. You might have to wait 3 years for it to be picked up by someone else. That's the beauty of setting boundaries.
Yeah, and but it was amazing how the family finally go, wow, you really changed. It was like I used to be so submissive and did whatever they told me to do, and then I finally put my foot down and started doing the boundaries, and they didn't know how to act around me.
Mm-hmm.
Because
That's right.
And it was kind of interesting to see that response from them. It was very empowering for me to have that respect.
Excuse me, it's very empowering for you. And that's why setting boundaries is something that's going to change the dynamic forever. And here's where a lot of people, I'm not going to say a mistake, because a mistake really, I think, is something that we learn from, and so I'm not going to say it's a mistake. But people, let's say that your family came to you and said, hey, Jennifer, you have to do this, and you said, oh, okay.
Right.
You go back on the boundary that you set. That is the critical mistake. I'm not going to even say it's a mistake. It's a choice. It's a critical choice that people make. You got to keep the boundary in place, regardless what happens.
Yes.
And you have to be patient to see that in the end, the family reunions did go on. It just took 3 years.
Right. And it was interesting because they planned it, and they planned it at a time that I couldn't attend it. So they went, and I didn't, and I was fine with it.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, whatever somebody else wants to do. See, that's the problem with setting boundaries, or at least the challenge, and that is that once we do this, we have to let go of whatever outcome. I can set a boundary with an abusive spouse, but I have to let go of any outcome that this is actually going to make a difference. I have to be the one that really gets up and leaves.
Right. And take a responsibility for my life and not worry about having the responsibility of theirs. As you said, that codependency.
No. Well, it is codependent, yeah. And it's also about feeling worthy, Jennifer, and a lot of people don't feel worthy. There was a time that I didn't feel worthy. I'm sure you're exactly the same, that we just don't feel worthy of having the best life possible. That is a load of crap. Forgive me, but it is. It just is. And we buy it, and we have to challenge that. Each of us has the responsibility to our higher essence, the life force of who we are, to say, wait a minute, I am just as worthy as anybody else, regardless of what Mom and Dad or Aunt Louise said.
Right.
We can't give those people power over us because we're allowing an opinion that someone has. Opinion, by the way, is not fact. I encourage your listeners to look it up on dictionary.com. Opinion is not fact. So someone's opinion of you, you're allowing someone's opinion of you, which is not fact, to set how you feel about yourself. That's a load of poopy.
It really is.
That's the fundamental reason of why we suffer, and it's just a load of poopy.
So
basically,
you can say crap. It's okay. This is the internet, so it's all right. It's very interesting that. By the way, Dave, who was the man who called you, really likes you. He likes your spunk, I think, and you are. I mean, that is, I think, as a life coach myself, the one thing that I see a lot of is people not feeling worthy. And it's almost like a core issue with most people in some form. So what kind of things can you suggest to help question worthiness?
Well, I think it's a matter of getting to know yourself, and that is to go past all of the stuff that you've been told about yourself. Let me use myself as an example. When I was about, I guess about 4 or 5, I figured out that I was gay. And I was raised in a fundamentalist Christian church in the southern part of the United States. So this was a big deal for me because you talk about unworthy. I had no one to talk to, Jennifer. There was no one. My parents thought I was going to hell. They didn't know about me, of course. But I was in total 100% emotional, physical, intellectual, and spiritual seclusion. This happens to all of us in some form or another, whether you're born gay because it's biological or whatever. But the church takes this and they use it as an excuse, even though it's biological, because of the sicknesses in the Bible, to persecute. So I grew up for a long period of time being totally alone and not feeling worthy. Can you imagine anything worse than in your own spirituality being told from the beginning that you don't have a chance?
Right.
So what happens is that we have to go within. We have to determine that what we believe about ourselves is more important than the opinion that someone else has of us. That is that I'm going to hell, I'm going, whatever. There are still countless people out there today in the name of organized religion, in the name of a document that was created so many years ago, that condemn me for being born this way. So that is their opinion, that is their interpretation, but that doesn't mean it's right. We now have proof. See, so you have to go and look within, regardless of what it is in your life, whether you were told you were unworthy because of a drug addict mother or whatever, Jennifer. We have to do search of our own soul to know. And then the next step is to believe who we are more than the opinions of other people. If I had believed what those people told me, I wouldn't be here today. That's the reason that so many of us commit suicide, or we do whatever, or we become addicted to drugs or whatever, because we're told that we're unworthy. So you ask me a question of how to do this, you look within your own heart. Your heart has the truth.
Indeed it does. It's interesting that for me, when I was growing up, I was told I can't, and my siblings would actually call me mentally retarded, and then when I went to school, I found out I had learning disabilities. So it really just demented my self-esteem to the nth degree. And I even had speech therapy 3 times a week because it affected my speech. And here I am doing a radio show and writing and doing all these things because I did go within, and I knew I had something to say, and I was worthy of saying it. Was it challenging? Oh, yeah. But it was so worth it. And it is amazing, again, saying no, that I'm not going to believe what they're telling me. It kind of flipped my family's switch, and letting them know, when you did that, this is how I responded. Mm-hmm. And this is how it affected my life by you saying I was mentally retarded when I had learning disabilities. This is how it, and to call them on it and let them know what their words were doing is a whole different form of bullying in a way, but now we have a whole different, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's still bullying, so whether it be a persecution of the church or your family because of learning disabilities or whatever, or you just need to be more like your sister, whatever we're taught, it's still bullying. It's about wanting to control someone and make them like us. And that is if anybody, Jennifer, really looked at the divine and what the divine is, which is love, then the divine created, or if we believe in a divine power that created or initiated the actions that resulted in everything that is around us, which is my belief system. It's not male for me. It's everything. It's just love. If we truly believe in that, and we go to an institution every week to study that, then we cannot begin to even want anyone else to be like us, because each of us is an individual, divine, unique spark of the divine. So why would we want everybody to conform to us? That's exactly the opposite of what the divine made us to be. That's the great thing that people in organized religion don't understand. We're supposed to be different. We're supposed to be unique. We're a unique reflection of the spark of the divine within us. My name is Regina. Yours is Jennifer. All of the listeners have their own personal name. But that's what we have to overcome, is we're not all supposed to be alike. We're supposed to be different.
And show the beautiful colors of the divine, and we're each a different shade, and we each have a beauty within us that deserves to shine and is supposed to shine. And That's is. And let me ask you now then, since we brought up bullying, why do you think it's so prevalent? Or is it just kind of like the buzzword in the media? In bullying.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Why is it so prevalent in the media and so much out there?
Well, I think anything is prevalent in the media because that's a story and they want to sell a story. It's prevalent out there because we have changed what we value. We no longer value treating each other with respect. We no longer value those things over money. We have now decided that it's things and money that's more important than how we treat each other. That's basically it. So you're seeing this reflected in movies that are violent. You're seeing this reflected in television programs that are violent and they gossip and all of these other things. Reality television that is, the base of human behavior and emotion. And one of the things that we really need to understand, especially anyone who is on a spiritual journey, is these things are teaching us how to behave, Jennifer. These things are teaching our children how to behave. We are impacted and our brain changes. Much research and study has been done by Harvard and several other people, physicians and research scientists, about how our brain actually changes when we're exposed to repeated negativity. We cannot handle everything that's being thrown at us, and that's one of the reasons. Little boys and little girls are not being allowed to express their emotions in a nice way. They're seeing violence on television. They're seeing their parents being violent, and they're acting that out.
Yes, and we wonder why they're taking guns to school. It's society and the media and how everybody is needing to express who they are and not really having, in some ways, the proper way or a venue to say what they need to say.
It's not that we don't have a proper way or a venue, Jennifer. What it is that our parents are telling us that we're not good enough as we are. Society is telling us that we're not good enough unless we wear a size 2 and we look like the models. Television is saying that those people that star in the McDonald's commercials are actually the ones that eat fast food. Media and advertisers are saying that sex is love. We're buying all of these things that are wrong. We're buying all of these ideas about ourselves that are absolutely 100% wrong. And we can't live up to those standards, and therefore we become depressed. A lot of depression today is basically because people are just not attached, or they have lost connection to what's truly important in life. Going outside, being a part of nature, enjoying family, putting the little technology down. We're supposed to be, in charge of technology. Technology is not supposed to be in charge of us. We're missing it.
And it's amazing how, you in the media we saw all those movies of like 2001 and A Space Odyssey where technology kind of like destroyed everything. And we've seen all these hints of wanting to warn us about technology and really holding on to the spirit of who we are, our souls, our hearts, and making sure we don't lose that. And yet in so many ways we didn't get the message. We saw it, we said it, but we didn't clue into it and really hold on to that message in some ways.
No, I believe we are, Jennifer. I believe we are cluing into that message, and I believe that every day that, at least the tens of thousands of people that I have interaction with, I believe we are understanding that, okay? I think one of the things that we need to really continue to focus on, whether that be in government or finance or any of the areas that we have a challenge, is that there's not any they out there. It's us. We're the ones that, regardless of what Hollywood or the media or any of these other things spin, we're the ones that can turn it off. See, that's about personal responsibility of living aligned with soul rather than living aligned with whatever this dream is that the planet is creating. That's our responsibility. My responsibility is to turn it off to the point where enough of us turn it off, then those people that make decisions about movies and television shows and everything else will get the message. There's a lot of wonderful programming out there. We have the choice to look at it. PBS is one of those things that's beautiful. There's a lot of good stuff on Discovery Channel, on Animal Planet, on Home and Garden Network. There's a lot of good TV out there. We have to be the ones that pull ourselves off the couch and turn the button off with the understanding that this is changing us and not for the better. I have a friend that is addicted to court TV. Okay, guess what? Her life is a living hell. Because she's living this drama of these people, and it doesn't matter. It makes no difference whatsoever to her personal daily interaction or life, but she's choosing to waste the precious moments of her life being addicted to someone else's misery.
Right, it's like
we
that.
We have to be the one that turns it off.
Yes, and there's other people that it used to be like soap operas. And now soap operas, they use the excuse, well, it's their drama, not mine, and they're not even reflecting or seeing the drama that they're drawing into their lives.
Well, and you asked about bullying
hooked.
because, it's, when we're exposed to these type of behaviors, and there's a lot of people out there that say that repeated violence is not going to impact us. That's a load, too. It's been proven that it does change us. You could just feel it in your body when you see somebody being angry with someone else and hitting them. I was actually hit in the head with a baseball bat full swing when I was about 13 years old. I can guarantee you it was an accident, but I can guarantee you no one gets up. But we have this idea that someone gets punched in the face or hit in the head with something, and they just get up and keep moving. We have distanced ourselves from what it actually feels like. That's why we have bullying. That's why, the thing with the older woman on the bus and all of these other incidents is because people are not empathizing with someone else. They're picking on them.
Right.
Of course, if it happens to them, they don't want to feel it, okay? Well, then that's the thing to changing it, Jennifer, is that when you know what it feels like, then you will not do it to someone else. You will rise above that.
That's compassion.
It's empathy. That's correct.
Empathy.
It's compassion.
Yeah.
That's right. And when we have those things, that's what romancing your soul is all about.
So with the process that, you're offering and the great stuff that you're saying here, and I agree, we are getting a clue. There are some people that aren't, but they're choosing not to. They'd rather just like this, the less you know, the better, and it's not necessarily true. With all this shifting of energy and people really going within, do you ever think that there's supposed to be people who are supposed to push your boundaries to have you empower yourself? Do you understand the question?
Oh, yes. What you're saying by that is are we to learn from the challenges of life? Yes. We are to learn from the challenges of life, sure. And that's the reason that we're here, because everyone has challenges in their life. No one goes unscathed. It's about taking those, and instead of becoming a victim, we become the victor over them. There are different levels of awareness on the planet. That's why we have strife. That's why we have conflict. That's why we have difficulties in a relationship. And by awareness, I mean self-awareness to how our behavior creates our life and how our behavior impacts other people. That's the self-awareness I'm talking about. That's what living aligned with your soul is, to be able to determine the consequences of your actions, how they're going to impact you, and how they possibly could impact someone else. So a lot of people out there that are not aware of how that works. The behavior you put out, you get back.
Oh, most
definitely. It might
definitely.
not happen immediately, but if someone comes along my street today and sideswipes his car and drives off without being responsible for that, then something is going to happen to them so that the universe gets even. And that's not a mean thing. It's an opportunity. It's just the lesson that they need in order to wake up to see how their behavior of irresponsibly hitting a car and leaving needs to change.
Right.
So
the energy
will
out
happen
is
in their lives. Now, those people that choose, sure,
go on.
Well, those people that choose to look at that and say, wait a minute, Oprah talks about this all the time. If you look at what's happening in your life and why these things continue to happen, you are the source of what's happening. It doesn't mean that other people, like a drunk driver, are not going to kill somebody that you love. There are so many things that you and I cannot control. So we sure as heck, to have the happiest life, need to control the thing that we can, and that's us. The mind is going to tell us that you need to go ahead and run away because you don't want to have to pay the insurance. But the consequences of what's going to come back to you later on for neglecting to be a responsible person are vastly greater than if you would have just stopped and exchanged insurance information. You see what I mean? Payback gets bigger if you don't own up to it.
Exactly. And, at least for me, I'm becoming more and more aware of the energy out is the energy I'm getting back. And I'm seeing it, the awareness is very, very high for me, in that respect. And it's amazing to have that awareness. And, so what was it about you, in your experience, that said, it's time to share this, though. I mean, you said you just knew that you had an experience, you wanted to help people, but was there one thing that just was the catalyst to say, yes, it's time to share this information?
It's so interesting, Jennifer, because I've been doing this sort of thing all of my life. My first memory was at 18 months, and I woke up and I said, uh-oh, here we go again. And I say that with all great reverence because the power that be decided that when I was MBA program director at Berry College in Rome, Georgia, that would be my last traditional job. And so it was that greater power that be that had nurtured me and grown me and forced me to choose to either overcome my challenges or to be a victim, and I chose to overcome those. That gave me what I needed in order to be able to put into words and emotions to help other people. So it was a matter of me becoming of age, not just because of what I had already known, but being able to actually own my experience to the point where I don't have an ego now. So I'm able to say what it's like to live on the other side of that in the real world. So it's about being real. And I wasn't that until a certain period of time, and I guess it was around, I've been working on it all of my life just like you and I do, and I'm never going to end. I know a whole lot of stuff, and there's a whole lot of stuff that I don't. And every day I get up and I'm very excited. So I've learned and I've become in a position now where I'm able to share what I know to be truth. And it's not just your opinion, my opinion, and somebody else. It's actually the truth. That what you put out, you get back. See what I mean?
Yes. Yes. And you have a lot of great common sense in providing the information that makes it very approachable and acceptable to everyone. It isn't heavy in the woo-woo or any of that. It's just common sense, which to me is intuition. It's common sense just to follow your heart. So it's great to hear someone express it so nicely. So you've done a great job finding the right words to express yourself. So I have a great appreciation for that.
Well, thank you very much, but I am just led by my heart, whatever that divine entity, and it's not like, not like Shirley MacLaine where I sit there and it talks to me, but it's that my heart is in the right place and I really am here to serve. So whatever message that someone needs to hear, whether that be in, 10,000 workshop or whatever, speaking to people, it just comes through. It's just real. It's just part of me. And also, Jennifer, because I've lived it, I make it real for those other people because I've been there and I know what it feels like. And if I can help anyone avoid anything or learn in a faster way so that they don't have to suffer, then it's a blessing, It really is a blessing. I want us all to be happy. I want us all to have a life that's fulfilled and to be peaceful. I believe that there is a time soon in our future when we're all going to live together in very, very much peace, but each of us has to take responsibility for ourselves and stop pointing the finger at someone else.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing is people understanding the responsibility they have to themselves and to others. But I also I am also seeing the resistance that some people are having to that very fact.
Like I say, it's an individual journey, and people wake up.
Right.
We're here to help just be an example of what it looks like when you take personal responsibility for your life. I can't change anybody else, but through my own experience of how I quit smoking and how I lost 60 pounds and how I did this, then someone else will be able to be touched and say, hey, that can work for me too. Because when one of us does it, just like Marianne Williamson says, we get to shine the light for other people too.
And there's another woman who, very common sense, down to earth, great speaker. Marianne Williamson is amazing. And I do. Do you feel that women are really owning and claiming their power now and really stepping up and saying what they need to say instead of being kind of dominated by the male presence on this planet?
Well, the misogynistic disdain for women goes way back in our history. It's before organized religion. It's when men figured out that women are the ones that birth new life into the world, so they did everything possible to make sure that they were in control of that process. And that's a deep wound within the human psyche in the male part that needs to be healed, because women are the answer to this, because we have got to be able to say, wait a minute, that is not the relationship we want to have with you. It's not the one that's healing our planet. This war and this divisiveness and this control that you think you have is absolutely contributing to the negativism on this planet. You know, it has to be a partnership that both sexes are equal. That's one of the reasons that even in my book that I say that God is not male. You know, Jesus never referred to God as being male. That was created just as so much of this other stuff. But then we take hold of that, and the human ego gets in charge of that, and then God, He will. And so all of these things add up, whether they're conscious or subconscious, to create a culture where males see themselves as more, you know, divine or whatever, and they persecute. This is the reason that we've got wars.
Yes.
So yes, to answer your question, absolutely. Even the Dalai Lama has said the women of the West are the ones that are going to be, you know, waking the world up. You see that with Oprah. You see that with Marianne. Each of us is making a contribution, because we are not here to dominate the planet, but we are here to help heal it. And we do have the wisdom in order to do that, to let males know, hey, you know, we're not here to take your job. We're here to help you do a better job of what you're doing now.
Exactly. And and I do think that a lot of males are thinking that, and it's, again, history, women are property. They're not necessarily supposed to be anything more than something that they use. And I think a lot of men are changing that perspective, but I do think there is a history of, like slaves, women were just property.
Well, if you trace the origins of that back, then you're going to find that it came with organized religion. Each one on the planet.
Yeah.
You know, when the founders passed away, then any of the gentle counsel that these people had, like Jesus, toward women who was equal in his eyes, when men and women are equal, they totally got rid of that, see, in order to keep this control thing. So there's a lot of things that we need to question. There's a lot of things that we need to question within our society and our churches and all of those things, because man created religion. God did not create religion. Man created religion. And whenever human beings, get involved in that, then you've got the human ego that's involved in that.
Well,
that's a real problem.
Right. A lot of times, and if you think about it, religion has created more separation from spirit than really connecting us with spirit.
Well, yeah, because each faction says exactly this is the way to do it, and if you don't do it my way, it's wrong.
Exactly.
That's not God.
Opposite truth.
Well, that's one of the things that I was talking about a little while ago. If anybody even thinks about this with a rational mind and an open heart, then we're going to realize immediately that that's not aligned with God. That's control. That's of ego. Therefore, we have not done the self-assessment within these traditional organized religion. We have not done that kind of self-assessment. You know, maybe the Catholic Church is going to think about allowing priests to get married. You know, look at celibacy because it's not working out for them. It's about 1,000 years, you know, into this, or 2,000 or however long. So we need to each look at what we believe and what we've been taught to believe, just like homosexuality. There's still people out there that would put me, you know, on a stake and burn me.
Yes.
I was born this way. It's biological. Hello, you know, wake up.
It's like me being with learning disability. Hello, I was born this way. It's okay. I might be different. You know, there is no difference. We just think a little differently. We're outside the box in a beautiful way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's and even with a lot of the spiritual or religious doctrines, it's man's perception of what God's word is. and it is man's perception. So, as you said, we need to question it and find within our hearts what is really truth of what is sending us where we're supposed to be and where we're supposed to go. So,
well, and the truth is love, because that's what God is. God is love. Also, God is in everything. You know, that's one of the reasons we need to be very aware of what we're doing to the planet and other animals, because human beings are animals too, and I think we forget that. You know, we are here not to dominate, but we are here to be the good steward of the planet.
Yes.
And through human greed and all of this other. I mean, women understand this inherently because we are the ones that birth life into the world. You know, we're the ones that do that. Without us, there is no life. So we have an inherent understanding of how precious life is. We really do. Now, men are changing. You know, I've got men in my life that are having babies, and I tell you what, it changes. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the most incredible thing that ever happened. You know, I think we're changing that because of the way that men are changing their role as parents. You know, it's much different than when I was being raised. Much different. These guys are hands-on. These guys are wanting to be part of it. These guys are really into the parenting aspect of it.
And there are more balance within the male and female energies, which I think that women have had that kind of skewed perspective for a long time, and thinking they had to be more male in the male world. And now we're going back to be truly who we are, which is a feminine energy in the balance of our strength, in our power of our grace.
Well, and we both have male and female energy, you know.
Oh, yeah, and it's a balance. It's a balance.
I think
it just got really out of skewed.
Mm-hmm. Well, it has been skewed, and it's been skewed by society telling males that they can't cry, you know, and all of this other crap. That's another reason for bullying. You know, if people were able to express their emotions healthy, then we wouldn't have this kind of problem. You know, at least to this extent. You're always going to have people that are going to abuse others, I guess, until such time that we don't. But it would certainly make it a lot easier, Jennifer, you know, if we were allowed to express our emotions.
What a concept, yes. I say that kind of sarcastically, but it is. I mean...
Well, I see it every day, though. That's what I was talking about. I really do see it every day. I see it in men and women walking down the street where the little father, you know, bends down and hugs his little boy and says, "It's okay, sweetie, it's fine. Go ahead and cry." I see this every day. We're changing it.
Yes. And it was interesting. I was at the book festival this weekend, and I saw a couple holding hands, which a lot of times a lot of people don't. And I told them, I said, it's great to see people holding hands to show that affection. Mm-hmm. And they just giggled and just kept going. But it was nice to see that people were showing their emotions. But it's true, there is a lot more of allowing boys to have that moment of release, because that's all crying is a release. And it's needed. If they don't release it in crying, they're going to go punch something. So
that's right. That's right. I think the boys in our society have been given two options for their emotions, and that is either anger or suppression. You know, and I think one of the most important things is that we allow them to express. See, the soul has no sex. That's the big deal. The soul has no sex.
Yes.
We have a human body that has a sex. So we're not allowing the body, we're not allowing the little person to express emotions. You know, I have emotions. My male friends have emotions. I love men that cry. Oh, my God, they're so wonderful because they can empathize with me. You know, I love men that are gentle with little animals. I love men who are appreciative of all of this, and I love women who are like this too, because they can then empathize with me. We're all connected. That's how we get it, you know. That's how we empathize. That's how we change the planet.
So then let's go full circle again. Okay, since we're supposed to be empathetic with everyone, explain how to balance the boundaries, because I think some people have a little bit of confusion with that.
Well, but being empathetic and setting boundaries are two different things. We can certainly, the man who verbally assaulted me on the bus, I'm empathetic with him because I understand that he is hurting and he's suffering, but I'm not taking his stuff on. I'm setting a boundary out of greater love for myself. That's different. The problem that we run into is that we take this personally. This doesn't have anything to do with me. He's not operating on all cylinders, all right? No one who's operating on all cylinders just attacks a little gray-headed woman on a bus, It's just, those people are not healthy. We have to understand that and have empathy for them. Doesn't mean that their behavior is right, but there's nothing that we can do to change that. So the thing that we can do is to just allow it to wash over us. Now, that doesn't mean that if we witness something that's, someone's going to harm us or harm someone else that we don't stand up. Absolutely, we stand up when physical life is in danger, but we don't just stand up and ego box with these people. You don't get them to change by ego boxing.
No.
In relationships, whether that's with a stranger on the bus or with an intimate relationship, fighting fire with fire just gets you burned.
Yes.
That's how we change the enlightenment and the wavelength on the planet, is those of us who understand this concept refuse to play. We refuse to play that you hurt me, so I'm going to hurt you back game. That's the difference between empathy. I understand that these people are hurting, but I don't have to play with them at their own game because I'm stooping to their level.
It's amazing I'm seeing it more and more, people just stepping back and not playing the game, and it's so beautiful just to have the people. Yeah.
It's personal power. See, that's what people don't understand, Jennifer, and that is that they think that they have to fight in order to be powerful. Gandhi changed India by not fighting, We can definitely, Martin Luther King, all of these people that have come before say, hey, the answer is not fighting fire with fire, it's about doing something different. That's what Einstein said, bring a different level of awareness to the circumstance than that which created it. We're not going to end war by having war. That's the big fallacy. We don't end having bad dysfunctional families by screaming and yelling at each other. We have someone who sets a boundary out of greater love with an empathy that it's not going to change unless I change it. And by changing it, I mean change me so that I no longer perpetuate this kind of behavior and I no longer participate in it. We can be very empathetic and also have great boundaries. I do, constantly.
Well, these days you have to. You have to put up the boundaries, just say this is acceptable and this is, respect. And it's interesting, though, when you say, I really feel you're being disrespectful to my feelings by saying X, Y, Z, there are people that just, they don't get it and they fight with you.
And here's where the empathy comes in, Jennifer, okay? Because if someone truly, and this is what I say in the book, and it's a concept that we have to wrap our heart around, if someone truly knew what they were doing and they were truly emotionally responsible for it, they would not do it. That's why Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. Now, a lot of people argue with this. They do know better. They should have known better. Yes, on an intellectual level, they do. The man the doctor who molested me in his office knew that he could get in a big load of trouble. He didn't care. The babysitter who sexually molested me knew because he said, I'm going to cut your boobs off if you tell anybody. These people know what they're doing is wrong intellectually. They do not have a clue emotionally and spiritually. There's a big difference in that. Being able to wrap your heart around the idea that their level of awareness is not such that they can control themselves doesn't make it right, and I'm not justifying their behavior. I'm telling you why you don't need to ego box with them.
Right. Can you reflect back at them so they understand what is going on?
I believe that heart has the wisdom to share, yes, and that's through setting boundaries. That's why you say, when you do this, I feel this. Please do this. That's why you say it. The best way that you can possibly say it is to put it in terms that they understand. That's why go to the website, get that essay, look at it, be able to state what you need. When you hit me, I feel this. Don't ever hit me again. These kinds of things. That's the only way that someone is going to get it. You bring a new level of awareness. Now, we don't do this, like I said before, to change them. We do this to change us. And in changing us, our world changes. But we don't have the expectation that they're going to stop hitting us. We need to remove ourselves from that situation.
Yes. We've come to the end of the hour. It goes so quickly. And I'm going to invite you back again, if you've got the time, because it's a fascinating conversation, and I know you have so much more to go over. And I do want to say again, that it is romancingyoursoul.com. You can get this essay for free, and a lot of great information on their website. And so I highly, you're on Facebook. That's how I found you, is on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. On Facebook. Romancing Your Soul on Facebook. That's where we have a lot of fun.
And lots of great conversation and insights, and it's beautiful. The sharing of information is tremendous. So, Regina Cates, I thank you again. I will see you on Facebook and be in touch with you about having you back on again.
Thank you.
It is, you really are a spitfire. And I mean that in the utmost respectful of grace, beauty, and feminine power, and human power, of spiritual power. Your energy is amazing, and it really is an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you. Well, I'm honored to be here. This is the reason that I exist. I want to help. I want to help us love each other and love ourselves.
May I break in and say
and there's lots of love to go around. It's free,
there's
and
plenty.
it's really easy to go there.
Thank you, Jennifer. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. This is Jennifer Hillman, and this is Air again on WithSpiritRadio.com, which is donation-based from and sponsored by you. So if you want to donate, please log on the website and donate. Again, we will see you next week with another wonderful 2 hours of excitement. This is Jennifer Hillman. Have a great, loving week, and we will see you next time. Bye now.